and I was feeling really good. And I finished last season the highest I've been. I was
Where
like
at?
within percentage points of plat, but I ended up
Nice.
fit in gold one. Um, and then perks came out, which I actually think is great. I
Uh-huh.
think for the game, but I am just on a spiral of
Mm-hmm.
losing, and tank is just feeling very not fun for me right now.
Makes sense.
Um, Especially as you know, I play a lot of Reinhardt, and I just do not understand the value of Reinhardt's perks,
Sure.
and feel like they're pretty underwhelming. And it also the other thing, and this might just be more in my head, but all the counters to the characters I like are all very strong. Um,
Sure.
Other than Winston, so I've been playing more Winston.
Sure.
So the clips I sent you are actually the majority of Winston with some Ryan and Diva mixed in.
Okay.
But I'm just having like this is kind of the first time I've always been really positive on tanking, even when the community might not be. And this is the first time I've just been really feeling down in the dumps about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we can work through it for sure. And I think like the important thing is that I can give you some advice and things to be done better, and I can explain to you, it's only a counter if you play with it, right? It's
Hmm.
only a counter if I'm playing Winston into Roadhog, it only feels bad if I'm next to the Roadhog, right? And that's kind of
Hmm.
how you leverage those things. But also at the same time, like ultimately, if you apply yourself and do your best and do all the right things, at least on paper, and you're not enjoying that process and or you're not enjoying tank, then I really strongly recommend you to stop and do something else.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's not like this isn't like some personality or character development here necessarily. So,
Hmm.
when
Yeah.
you no, go ahead, finish.
I was gonna say I've been playing a little bit of other roles and even branching out a little bit into a couple other games and things like that. But I'm mostly playing for fun, like to
Yeah,
relax. So I'm not trying to be ultra competitive. But
yeah, yeah,
I
makes sense.
will say that in my mind, it feels like I play better, or maybe this is ego or whatever. But it just feels really, really bad when I'm not playing tank, because
Yeah,
I tend to feel like the tanks I get or on my team aren't super great, but
yeah,
I always try not to blame myself. Instead, I'm just like, well, I'm just going to take it in my own hands. And like,
right.
I at least know I can do my best as tank and feel good about that, even though I'm losing a lot.
Right, right. So it's kind of like you almost are cursed a little bit with knowledge because you go in and you have these expectations off of your tank, and then they don't do those
Yeah.
things, and then you're like, well, that's annoying. So, yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
okay, makes sense, makes sense. Now, when we had our last session, I think it was specifically Diva and Reinhardt.
Hmm.
What felt good? Where did you improve? You said you did quite well. Where did you
Yeah.
and
I
what
think,
felt good? What did you improve with?
I think my patience, and like cover usage was a lot better. I think I've been decent with cover with Reinhardt, but especially with Diva, like flying with purpose, like if I
Mm-hmm.
dive, knowing where I'm gonna end, I'll just like end in the middle of wide open space and maybe I get a
Sure,
kill, but then they turn around and melt me.
sure.
Um, I think being a little more patient with my cooldowns has been helpful. Um, and at the same time as being patient, just like being active as well.
Yeah,
Um, if that makes any sense.
yeah, it
Like,
does. It does. Active
when I
brain,
watch,
static body kind of a thing, looking
yeah.
around, trying to decide what to do next.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think those have been the biggest improvements. I still have no idea how to play into Zarya as Diva.
Yeah,
I can't crack that.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, we can take a look here. Let's look through form. Any questions about practice or how you need to be practicing? Do you feel like you've been practicing with good hygiene since we spoke? Because that's like
Um,
probably the most important factor in improvement.
yeah, and I mean maybe this is contributing quite a bit, but
Okay.
um, there's some we've been dealing with some pretty bad health stuff over the last month or
Yep.
two.
I understand.
Um, so it's felt especially important to me to do this as a way to decompress.
Yeah,
But
understandable.
yeah, no, my sleep and stress and everything have been kind of through the roof.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I can relate to that. Like everything else feels like it's not playing up to standards, and so you want to feel like you have some sort of control somewhere. But I do think that that's a dangerous thing to do with something that's as demanding and as stressful as Overwatch, right?
Yeah.
Like I think there's a lot of other things. Like I'm not discouraging from playing, but I think there's a lot of other hobbies and skills and talents that you can apply yourself to and find, some sort of productive catharsis through what you're going through, right? But at the same time, Overwatch demands so much, right? I mean, for you to be able to climb in. I mean, you are a fine player. You're an average player, but you're aiming to be a good player, right? And that might demand certain things that you're not able to do right now. So I'm the same thing with you playing tank or not playing tank. I'm happy to go through it, offer some advice, and give some feedback. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm saying that it's not necessarily a you problem if that's kind of what's contributing here. Like whether it's health or sleep or both, anybody would struggle to play well with Overwatch given those circumstances, right?
Yeah.
So, don't be too hard on yourself and consider opening things up to less stressful hobbies. I mean, this is like the world's worst kept secret, but I don't play a lot of Overwatch when I'm in stressful work environments. I'll play it on stream, and if there's a specific project, I will. But for example, when I have to learn a new character like Freya coming up, right? I specifically avoid cluttering up my schedule with projects because I know if I have more work to do and then I try to quote unquote decompress with Freya, it's not going to work. Right? So that I always have to free up my schedule for when I need to apply myself to Overwatch. So like, I don't know, like, and that's me, like, this is my job. So like,
Totally.
You're not crazy is what I'm saying. So,
I appreciate that. I feel like I have had a healthy mindset about it in terms of just like, it's a game.
yeah.
Like I want to feel like I'm doing the best I can. Like if the best I can do
Sure.
is like, I believe I can be low to mid plat without a lot of hesitation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think if I applied myself, I can go there. But like, I'm not getting overly serious. Like I don't need to get up to masters or whatever.
Yeah. But this is the tricky part. Like, it doesn't matter if whether you're jumping for 40 inches, jumping for 400 inches. If you're still missing the bar, then you're still feeling like you're failing your identity. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's still a hard.
Sense.
And honestly, like setting the bar lower, especially for a reasonable guy like yourself, like could be even more frustrating because it feels so freaking close. It really does feel like a personality flaw, and not like, oh, I'm just not gifted enough or whatever people tend to cope with. It's like it feels so close, but it misses as good as a mile. And so like if you're like, let's say you're gold 3, gold 2, whatever now, gold 4, and due to extenuating circumstances or mentality or frustration or difficulties or life, whatever, and you're like, oh, I should be plat 4 or plat 5, that's pretty reasonable, right? No, it's not. It's not reasonable. Maybe it's reasonable if you're able to like practice better, play better mentality, sleep better, but maybe some of those things you can't control. And so regardless, it's still an unrealistic picture of who you are right now. And I think that's can be I don't know. I'm not.
That makes sense.
Fussing at you, but like, I don't know. What I'm trying to do is like take some of the pressure off.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if I mentioned it. I said I was losing a lot, but since last night, I actually dropped to gold 5. So
yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Rank-wise, quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense again, like given the circumstances, and also rank reset. So there's a lot more volatility with stuff for like the next few weeks at least. But again, sure. Like nothing's going to surprise me. So, it happens. Okay, let's. Any other questions here before we take a look at some gameplay?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, so you chose these codes. Why?
Because I think they're pretty representative of when I have
excellent
bad games. I think the Gibraltar one is the one I'm more embarrassed about, so probably the one I should look at, because that one is just kind of a bad game.
Well, okay. I mean, it's interesting though. So you said more embarrassing, but just bad. And by what metric do you judge that? Is it just dumb deaths or what?
Yeah, so I think it's typical of how I can be is, well, we start on defense and just get rolled. Until third point, I make a switch and we hold, and I feel pretty good. But I tend to get in these matches when we start doing very bad quickly,
Mm-hmm.
it just steamrolls, and then I get pressed and I get just like stressed, and so maybe I try to do more, and my
Mm-hmm.
brain doesn't stay on as well, and so like it leads to more mistakes,
Sure.
which I think happened, and then we were pushing on the second round on offense and just kind of got stopped, and so I think kind of understanding what happened in the first part where we just couldn't get it together at all. And
Yeah.
then once I get it together, maybe just that could be more of like actual like gameplay mechanics kind of stuff, because I don't think I was even really thinking until the third point really.
I've got a really funny story. Can I tell a little anecdote about
Yeah,
this?
for
Because
sure.
this might be I play mini golf like once a year with my family, right? There was a
Hmm.
year when I was like 12 years old. We were in Tennessee for some vacation thing, and I had like a couple of really, really bad holes, like 4 or 5 holes in. And if you ever play mini golf, like once you get like 5 strokes, 4 or 5 strokes, 4 or 5 holes in a row, you're done. You're cooked. The game's over, right?
Hmm.
Like there's no coming back from that. So I'm like, all right, well, I got nothing to lose, so let's just do some cool shots. I'm just gonna try for the hole in one. All of a sudden, I get like 2 or 3 hole in ones in a row, and I'm like, hey, actually, I'm back in the races again. Like I did something
Hmm.
crazy, right? So I start trying again, and I choke, and I fumble the bag, and I lose anyway. So
Yeah.
that's often how it goes. But I kind of like I lose the script because I'm like trying to put a lot of pressure on myself, kind of as you described, and I end up fumbling the bag again.
Hmm.
Similar situation happened, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. I don't remember. We were visiting in North Carolina, my family, anyway. Long story short, similar situation. Not as bad of a start, but also a bad start. And at that point, I'd been kind of exposed to different mindset stuff and training and coaching and so on. And I was like, all right, well, I've lost. So let's just practice not choking. Like, let's just see if I can not choke. I'm going to lose. I'm going to miss some shots. I'm going to have some bad holes. Let me just not choke for the rest of the game. And I ended up winning because I was able to keep attention on the task at hand and treating it like a practice session and not like a performance, right? Just go in, do what I need to do, and rinse and repeat over and over and over again.
Hmm.
And the crucial thing for me was like around the 11th or 12th hole or whatever, I started to realize, like, kind of became aware of what was happening, right? Like how close I was getting to win with my very competitive family.
Hmm.
And I was like, you know what? Who cares? I've come from the gutter to this point now. So let's just keep practicing. Let's not change the approach. Let's not change the structure. Let's just keep doing it if it ain't broke, right?
Hmm.
And so whenever you know how this happens hundreds of times with Overwatch, right? Where you
Yeah,
start really
totally.
poorly and you're like, all right, well, what do I do? I should try to like, change something up no, like there's one of two results that are going to happen. One,
Hmm.
you're just going to keep playing the character that you're going to play, and you're going to have perks, and you're going to have your ultimate, and you're going to lock in, or you get lucky, and you're going to win the fight, and you're going to win the game, and things are going to snowball in the opposite direction, right? All it takes is a couple of bad fights with your team, and then you're cooking. The other alternative is that nothing good happens, and that you do indeed lose, but at least you were staying and practicing the character that you actually like playing.
Hmm.
Now, the counterpoint to that is like, let's say you're playing Diva, Legion Tower Control Center, they roll out Zarya, and you're like, okay, we lose really badly. I'm not having fun playing Diva right now. I should swap.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. But I guess my point here is like a bad start, there's no real solution to a bad start that's different from a good start. You just keep doing the
Hmm.
same thing. You always want to play the same way. Whether you're losing or whether you're winning, you play the same way. Just play the same way. Play the same way.
Yeah.
Control what you can control. And because like you kind of described, like you put a lot of pressure on yourself. And it's like that's the exact opposite reaction that you should have, not just for practice performance, but also just for the general enjoyment of what you're doing. Just play. Who
Totally.
cares? These are freaking gold 5 players, right? Like nobody cares. Just play.
Totally. Um, yeah, so this is kind of what you're talking about with Zarya is, I got in position, then I heard them in spawn, and I was like, oh crap, cool, there's Zarya. And I already was like stressed about it. And so
Yep.
I pretty quickly, like I didn't die on purpose, but like, I maybe made a mistake, or I definitely made a mistake right in the beginning, and then just instantly switched off because I'm like, I don't even want to deal with this.
Yeah, I'm gonna be. I mean, Winston's good here too, but
Hmm.
this is definitely a map where you should not have any issues with Zarya. Zarya is really bad on this map. So from your understanding, maybe not what you do, but from your understanding of what on paper a diva can do versus a Zarya, what comes to mind?
So, try to count bubbles. Like only engage if she doesn't have bubbles. And then I remember something you were telling me that I've been having trouble with in our last session was that you got to play appropriately in terms of distance. Like you actually want to be pretty close because her effective range is so much further than you. So if I'm playing kind of, like this distance on the ground, for example, I would be in a big disadvantage. Instead of if I'm in their face, I could at least do something.
Sure. I mean, really, the truth is in the extremes, right? You either don't engage or you engage at point blank. I'm actually going to give you a bit of a hot take.
Yeah.
Don't count bubbles.
Oh, okay.
Just don't engage.
Okay.
Unless she's low and you're close. Like a way to beat Zarya is by taking every angle away from her and avoiding her. Her biggest limitation is things that she can't touch. That's why Winston's a problem too. It's not just, bubble doesn't feed charge. Like that's the tiny details. The big detail is that you don't engage with her. That's why she can at times struggle with Doomfist, even though she can bubble off his engages. She struggles with Ball, Winston, Diva.
Okay. That makes sense. I do think it makes a lot more sense for me. And with Monkey, I'm like, I don't really engage her, but for some reason it stresses me out so much more with Diva.
Yeah, I mean, this BAP is kind of a moron here, but this is kind of exactly what we're talking about here. You started on a high ground. What is Zarya supposed to do here? Is she going to push cart and get shot from angles that she can't touch, right? She's going to peel backline and bubble her BAP? Maybe.
Yeah.
So all you need to do is Matrix here and just leave.
Yeah.
And you just didn't. You needed to go back up. Like that's I think the thought was there, right? Okay. But just go back up to the high ground again. Get healed, do it again. So we won't delve deeper into that because you are going to swap here, but it's worth pointing out.
Yeah.
Now that is not a Reinhardt skin I've seen before, and that is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it was on the. I'm a sucker for skins and stuff too because it just makes me happy. But I think it was one of the new ones this season.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Thanks.
Probably just pin out here, to be honest. This is just more along the lines of I like what you're doing, but like you don't have the manpower for it, so. Because it's only you three.
I think I thought of that too late. I was like, okay, I should probably back up, and then my shield was already gone.
Yep, it's fine. I mean, your Moira's brain dead, but it's fine. You just have to commit. Either you die in cart here, or you back off to the corner and let your Moira die and take the fight here. Because with you, Lucio, Torb, Tracer, it's 4, but it's something, right? Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah.
As questions come up, you know the routine. Just let me know. But let's go.
So I know he's not good on this map, but it's like this is something that
he's okay. He's okay. Like you could. There's corners and stuff, and at least you have more verticality than Zarya because you can. I know people talk about like the alt fire, but the distances in Gibraltar are so extreme that it's not good enough. But Pen can get you around, right?
Yeah. It's like this was an example that I was just kind of really confused where to position. I find this kind of where I'm like, there's a wide open space right here. If I go forward and contest cart closer, then they're just gonna get free push for a little while. So I could stay on this corner, like right where my cursor's at. And I think I did that at first, and then I was like, oh no, they're just getting a bunch of free values. So then I like tried to go around to the blue crate, and then I was kind of just again caught in the middle ground where I'm like, oh crap, I don't know where I'm gonna go, and kind of just was, the indecision caused me to be in bad positioning, I think. But it's just because I don't know, is it important enough? Like, is the free value okay to give up to get them in a position where I'm more effective? Because like I don't know where I can walk to close that gap.
Well, you tell me. Is it worth it?
Probably.
So to stay here or to push forward?
I would assume to stay here is the better move.
Why?
Because at least I won't be dead.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Yeah, it just feels wrong. It's like, you see, I'm kind of like all back and forth. Like, maybe I can get an angle. Nope.
If you were to walk forward, where would you go? If you were to walk forward, where would you go?
Well, I was too late because I don't like that angle right now. But like before, when they were just going into the spawn, like I would have gone to behind that blue crate.
Yeah, could have gone here. Heck, you could have even gone all the way here and shoved this. It's not great, but it's something, Okay. Sure. Yeah, it's fine. A little bit of a messy fire strike there, but yeah, this is fine. You're wasting their ultimate here, so.
Yeah, I think in that case, I don't know if this is just mechanics or whatever, but like I try to do that jiggle swing to get a
Yeah.
little bit more distance, and then like I think I just lost Cassidy, and like sometimes that can happen where I'm like I don't even know which direction I'm facing.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
I would say this needs to be more about fire strikes that need to be hitting.
Okay.
And this one is, either a full commit or not a full commit here. So you're like, shield your team,
Yeah.
but then ultimately the
didn't-
beat happens, and then that's just kind of unlucky, Like they're able to just kind of draw the fight out long enough to be able to get that high noon off. So okay.
Yeah.
You need to pin out. Yeah. He's gonna hinder. Good. That's
Some
fine.
of them were old. And, yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Sure.
opportunity for that. So.
Sure. Sure. It's fine. Could have been a lot worse. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. There's too much indecision here, right? In terms of where you want to go. Like, where should you go? You have a couple of options here. What do you think?
Maybe to like that left pillar, like maybe pin there, so I'm not like slowly walking. I'm just getting my shield.
I mean, you could also who's to say that you have to walk the cart this way? Why would you not just go this way?
Yeah.
Or at least just stay here, or move from here to here, or to here. All right, exactly.
Yeah. I think I just saw the window and just like freaked, and then.
Yep. You can tell the panic.
This is what I'm like when I'm like, okay, we got unsettled, and so now I'm just like not thinking. I'm just.
Yeah. I mean, I how much of this is this? The rest of this Winston, basically.
Yeah. The rest of it's Winston.
Okay. So to simplify your Rhine, there just needs to be more decisive corner holding, and more decisive aggression, or more decisive defensiveness. There's like a lot of little mechanical things. Like I could tell things have gotten a little messy with you, but there isn't really anything earth-shattering that you need to do. Just be a little bit more decisive with where you're playing your corners. Stuff that we've talked about before, right? And I think like there's nothing wrong with you that you're not doing that correctly. It's just when you don't practice skills, they get rusty. That's all there is to it. And I think the thing that people expect is they're like, oh, but I can like pick a guitar and play. Yeah, but Overwatch is not a guitar.
Yeah.
Overwatch is an extremely complicated and demanding skill that requires snap-second decision-making. It is unlike anything that you're ever going to do outside of like probably a handful of sports.
Yeah.
You get rusty, you get rusty. You get rusty real fast. More is not necessarily better.
Yeah, can I, before we start talking about Monkey,
Please.
I did want to ask, like,
Yeah.
I am having a lot of trouble with Reinhardt's perks. Like, I get them in theory, but they just feel to me.
They're
like,
probably the worst perks in the tank role, if that makes you feel any better. So,
okay.
but they have
Yeah.
value. And do you have any specific questions about any of the specific ones? Or are you looking for like a general overview or what?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just like, which ones should I generally use and get value, like get value from, I guess, like.
Yeah, pretty much the same two perks. From my understanding, it's going to be Crusader's Resolve and Crushing Victory. So while using Barrier Field, your passive health regeneration triggers 75% sooner. If you're pinning backline, playing flank Reinhardt, wrapping around, taking flanks, taking angles, which you will on a lot of maps with a lot of high ground. I mean, you could have even done that here, right? Like we could have been here, and instead of holding this corner, you could have pinned up the high ground and come up here and held shield. Your passive heal basically kicks in immediately, almost immediately. So you start generating back up. I don't know what it is for tanks, like 40 healing per second, 50 healing per second, somewhere around there. It's really, really fast. 30 healing, it's really fast. Okay. Very nice. Not OP, but very nice to have. The other one is Crushing Victory. It's just you hit a pin or even knock people with like the side of your, like, you boop them with your pin. It's overhealth. It's free. And if you actually pin a tank, it's a lot of overhealth. It's a lot of overhealth. If you pin a tank off the map and just, cancel your pin, It's a lot of overhealth because you technically got the full kill off of it. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's good. It's good. It's not great. It's, again, the weakest set of tank perks in the game, I think, but those two perks are probably like basically insta-locks almost 100% of the time. Shield Slam is something that maybe people will figure out smarter than I, how to utilize and how to combo with and so on, but for right now, it's just kind of a dud. So,
Yeah, those are the two that I, especially in the beginning, started using because on paper I really, I thought they were the better ones. I just have trouble with the Crusader's Resolve. Like, there's so many things that can go through his shield.
right.
And it feels like by the time I put my shield up and it starts kicking in, there's just like a sojourn
Yeah.
thing or, something
It's
just
definitely not a
stops my
frontline.
thing.
It's definitely not a frontline perk at all. It's one when you're using, when you're angling and flanking and wrapping around, when basically what you're trying to swing on, you can't reach because of the map or because of the type of comp they're running.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't exactly know, like, I didn't think about, like, pinning tanks for the second perk, like how much more overhealth you can get and things like that, because it just felt like, I'd ping a Juno and then, like, get a tiny bit of overhealth, and then the team would just look at me and melt me, and I'm like, okay, I don't even think that really helps.
It basically, it doesn't change how you use pin necessarily. It just it just makes it a little bit less punishing for actually hitting a pin.
Okay.
Because even a pin Juno is still going to be 110 HP, right? Like, you'll take it, right? It's something.
Okay. So is it fair to say that I basically shouldn't change how I play with those perks? It's just extra value a little bit?
First one, I would say, could change your playstyle a little bit.
Okay.
In terms of, like, wrapping high grounds and pinning around and solo flanking a little bit. That is something that Reinhardt already does, but you could do it a little bit more. Second one, less so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I'm like, I got overhealth, so maybe I should, like, be a little more aggressive, but
You can,
I
but
think
no.
that might be where I get in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is, like, maybe you don't pin enough without the perk, and then you pin too much with the perk. Like, you should still be looking for pins, right,
Totally.
with Ryan, so. This is a good jump. You used high ground, you got to back line. You should have finished off with alternate fire there, but that's okay. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd say mechanically, like, Monkey's the character I know least about.
Yep. He's
Like-
underrated for difficulty in terms of that.
Yeah, I'm, like, still learning just even, like, the basics. But, like, he feels good. He's fun for my play style.
Yep. That is a skin I have not seen before, so you're just basically teaching me things about the game that apparently I don't know. So I want to kind of highlight something here, like let's kind of go look back and I don't have we done Wins the Country? I don't feel like we have. Okay, so let's highlight things a little bit. So the way Winston takes space is he does the exact same thing that Reinhardt does. He wants to hit people with his hammer. He wants to hit people with a Tesla cannon, right? Same kind of thing, similar effective ranges. That's about it. The difference between Ryan and Winston is Ryan has much more flexibility with the targets that he can hit because he does a lot more damage than Winston. But Winston has a lot more mobility, so he could be a little bit pickier. He's a picky eater, right? So, you can win a tank trade with Zarya. Like, it's one of the few tanks that, like, you're not bad versus, but still, it's like you're not using your mobility, so it's just not optimal, right? So what you do is you create space by jumping onto a angle onto backline or onto the side or onto the flank, just a little bit. It doesn't have to always be backline. It's just a little bit not directly in front of the entire enemy team, right? And you cause a split where some people are going to look at you, some people are not going to look at you. Like this one, for example, the BAP is turning around, the Juno is isolated, and that means that no support for the Cassidy, right? So you either get the kill directly by getting onto the target, or you force a bad resource split. And the reason why you're really good at that is not just because of your mobility, but because Bubble is probably the most powerful tank cooldown in the entire game. It is really strong. It's good at splitting. It's omnidirectional. It cuts people off. It protects you. It's offensive. It's defensive. And if you get the perk later, it also heals you and your team, right?
Yeah.
So it's just really, really, really strong. And, it's what Ryan doesn't have, the ability to damage and heal and protect himself at the same time. And so that's kind of like what makes Winston strong. So when you're playing Winston, you should be thinking like a picky eater. Like, for example, right now, you should be thinking, do I really want to play patty cake with the Zarya right now, right? Can I set up an angle? Now, you can't engaged right now. You don't really want to engage right now because you don't have your bubble yet. But you could start to think about, we talked about it earlier, that using that downtime for thinking, right? So you tell me, what's the next step for your engage here?
So yeah, I went back just one to make sure I can get healed if I need it, but I didn't really need it that much. And then I just saw Zarya was, I didn't want her to back cap, so I wanted her to back off. So I think the next move is to jump up to the bridge,
Yeah. Why?
because it'd be very hard for them to shoot me while I don't have my bubble. And there's also like some cover I can take
Sure.
while I wait for my cooldown. And then it also gives me, so it's, I know like I've seen like the idea of soft um, engaging. And so it give me the option to either do that or jump in from
Sure.
where I'm
And
at.
what's the soft engage? Let's clarify that a little bit.
So I had a question about that, and maybe it's a different term I'm misremembering, but it's like there I could either jump in on the back line or wherever if I see a target, and then bubble, wait for my cooldown, and get out. But another thing I could do is not jump in, just kind of drop in, and then I still have my jump cooldown. So if I need to get out faster, I can get out faster.
Sure.
Or even like if I see someone who I could kill without a bubble, maybe I drop down and do that real quick, then jump out.
Works for me.
So like I know there's a lot of value from actually landing on the person when you jump. Like what's the trade-off of like how important should I be thinking about that? Because sometimes I'm like, there's times I could soft engage, but I want to get that extra damage in there.
I would say a good basic rule, a very unnuanced rule, let's put it that way, that you could start with is that you really want to prioritize in living. Like, so if you ever look at an engage and you go, I don't think I'd live that, the answer is probably don't do it. But if you think, okay, I can live that, then the answer is I can do this. So like I look at this jump here, your initial jump on the Juno, right?
Yeah.
Your team's here, you know where Zarya is. Do you think that you can live this engage if you get a perfect bubble, perfect zaps, whatever?
Yeah.
Probably, right? There's no Bastion here, okay? You're basically full HP and your team is here to help, so probably. But if you were missing half your HP and there was a Bastion, probably not, you know?
Yeah. And I was happy, like I wasn't necessarily tracking cooldowns this well, but like I did think about it that like in terms of who could just stop me.
Sure.
And I was like, well, the only thing that really scares me is Cass's.
So that's fine.
If he had it or not, but I was like, it's a good risk to take.
Yeah, I agree. And again, that's what bubble is for. Bubble is meant so that you can dive when they have cooldowns. You shouldn't. Again, it's kind of like we were talking about counting bubbles earlier. There's like a weird dynamic where I think people are obsessed with tracking cooldowns and playing. You can't play Overwatch waiting for people to use things. You know what I'm saying? Like you kind of have to, like, especially as a tank, you do need to find ways of taking engagements, even if there are threats. But it's just about managing and playing around those threats. It's not giving up entirely. Like imagine if you couldn't play the game until Zarya used a bubble. I mean, how pointless would that be, right? Okay, so from here, like you take top, and then you can choose to do a hard jump or a drop. Either one. Both will be better from the Sigrun because you'll have better vision. No Zarya in your face, right?
And something else I started doing that worked well is I could also jump to the yellow ledge behind.
Yeah. There's your angle, right? We talked about angles, right? Like that's all Winston really is that's all really Overwatch is finding your angle for your engage and using your verticality. And do you want to go deep or do you want to go shallow, right? As long as you have an angle.
Yeah, for some reason, like, I think the reason why I don't do it as much with D.Va is like, so the secondary fire, like right now, it doesn't do a ton of damage, but it could be fairly accurate, and like I feel like people back up from it pretty easily, and I feel like I don't have any tools like that with D.Va. Like I can rocket from this distance to poke, but that feels like a lot of times a waste of a cooldown.
Yeah,
it is. That effective.
It is. The big problem why D.Va plays very similar to Winston in terms of she wants angles. She needs to use her mobility. But the biggest reason that you probably haven't thought about is because boosters is way, way slower than jump. So when you're going from here to here, it just takes you longer. And honestly, I don't even know if you can get all the way to yellow there. Like, can you get all the way to here? I mean, eventually, but it'll take you a while, right? So like D.Va is a much is a short-range dive tank like Winston. Yeah. But like the real difference is that Diva's boosters, she's just a much slower mobility. She's like the least mobile dive tank in the game, especially when you compare her to Doomfist and Winston and Ball, right? Those guys are fast, right? And that's very useful for mobile tanks. Okay, let's keep going here.
Cool.
So you're just gonna kind of wait here, see an opportunity for an engage on an angle. Like you could jump behind the cast here. You could use the cover. That's a big one as well. So like when Zarya's low here, you jump Zarya, but you actually kind of jump behind Zarya, right? Why?
Because I know if I put the bubble down, like this angle might not necessarily work because she gets up pretty quickly, but a lot of times I can put my bubble down and I get the protection from it, but then also it cuts off like the Juno healing.
Yeah.
And it helps my team deal with Zarya if she pushes forward.
Is this an angle?
I don't think so.
There's one hint. There's one hint for it, right? Look at where their arrows are pointing right here. Do you see it?
Yeah.
And where are your team arrows coming from?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? That's it right there. Now, could you have made this jump better? Let's look at it like a piece of art, right? How could this jump have been done better? Could it have been done better?
I think. Well, I guess that I don't know. I'd be interested to know, but I could have maybe more purposefully jumped the Cassidy.
So landing specifically on somebody. Okay.
Cassidy, yeah.
So if you're not going to land specifically on somebody, what's another aspect of your jump that can help you to live more? So remember we said like a good basic rule would be like, I want to try and live first, right?
Yeah.
So I either land on Cassidy for the offensive value, but what other defensive value could you get out of a jump? This is a tricky question. See if you can spot it.
Maybe like go behind, I don't know, is that a dumpster a little bit more? So
Okay, so never mind, you got it. Yeah, you got it. So you don't necessarily need to land behind cover, but thinking about an aspect of cover. So for example, instead of migrating in here, you actually migrate away. So you're zapping and you're kind of backing off towards here and you're kind of dancing around this. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. In fact, that's a very, very, very important part of Winston that a lot of people don't talk about is cover jumping, right? So that's why when we talked about this engage here in the Juno, there was more hesitation from me because of where you were when you landed and less so because you were jumping a Juno. Because there's no cover here. But here, more likely to live. I'm telling you, 1 second is a long time for if you're able to buy yourself 1 extra second. That's the difference between this right here and living as opposed to dying.
Like that makes sense because I definitely lost a bit of HP the second bubble went away.
Now, while you're waiting for jump, is there a next step? So you're getting healed right now, so you're not going to go anywhere. But your passive heal's kicked in. Where should you go right now? You can't jump in now, but you can set up.
I could go to like the yellow crate.
We've talked about before, right? And you could use your all fire. Now they could definitely poke you out. Not taking space and taking angles and setting up is never free, but it's generally a good thing to do. So if you go here and they hard focus you, and you're running Moira Lucio because it's gold, and they don't know how to heal you, and you jump back to your team, that's okay. That's okay. If somebody stops you for doing a good thing, they're doing a good thing too. Good for them. That's okay. Go next. Try it again.
Yeah, I think I was playing a little conservatively because I know Lucio would be hard to heal me. In this comp, but then I think I get a little bit less precious about that, and it continues to work.
It's not even conservatively. I want to use the right adjective here. It's or I guess adverb. It's stackily.
Yeah.
Right? You can be very conservative here, very high, don't take any damage, don't even jump, just walk and bubble and then jump out, right? But ultimately, this gives that Zarya too much value because she's going to grab and she's going to catch you, right? They're going to high noon and he's going to catch you, right? There's no distraction, there's no split here. Sure. Because I'm legitimately concerned that you guys could still lose this fight. You feel it, right? You feel it, right? You feel it, right?
Would have lost that.
Yeah, even with beat, you almost died, and your Torb did die, right? There just isn't any angle set up, and so ultimately, regardless of whether you quote unquote win the frontline trade or not, a tank with no mobility versus a tank with mobility, the tank with no mobility always wins if the tank with mobility stands there. Always. Doesn't matter if you're a Doomfist here. if you're playing Doomfist, you'd have to angle to beat the Zarya. You'd have to. Right? You think this is only a slight angle, but it's an angle, right? If I'm Wrecking Ball, I'd have to be coming from here. If I was Diva, I'd have to be coming from here. Same thing with Winston, right? But if you stand directly in front, you're screwed. Sure. Sure. Okay. Curious to see which perk you choose here.
So my thought, and this is one I could use help with.
Angle, by the way, pause real fast here. Angle,
Yes.
you see it? Yeah, not just help your Lucio, but also, I would drop that bubble, yep.
I usually do the heavy landing first,
I agree.
unless there's like a very specific deployable that I want to deal with.
Well, I'm with you on that one. Yep, with you on that one.
Yeah, but the confusion, and we'll probably get to it at some point, is I have no idea like how to get a lot of value out of Winston's ult other than just like trying to make space. Like if they're pushing, then it's like I can push them off point, or like I know I can jump more, so like
We'll talk about it in a
that's an
second.
advantage. But like in terms of juggling or whatever, like I have no idea how to do any of that.
Sure. We'll talk about it. Okay. Angle here, angle. Now, the funny thing is you could commit here, and this wouldn't be too bad. Because where's your team, right? So we got pressure here, but if they focus you here, that exposes them to Junkrat spam. You see that? But again, we kind of have to go back. Is this better? You know, is even starting up here better? Like, heck, you could even jump up over here. Probably not something you've ever tried before. And wait for them to push, Okay, they've started to fight, drop behind Zap, right?
Yeah.
Something else to consider.
Yep.
Nice. You see the isolation here? Look at this. Like, I want you to look at the snapshot here of the enemy team's position. Watch how it migrates. You see that?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yep.
And then the isolation. Now, if you could avoid taking damage here, and then now you could dive, you could drop bubble, you could do anything you want. You could just bubble off this echo. Like right now, for example, you could have bubbled way sooner and just 1v1 the echo. That would have been fine too. So it's not well done from you, but I mean, the idea is there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just decision making.
Yeah, but the actual execution itself, it's still good enough to win because it killed backliners. It killed people. Also, for a second perk here, I think it's really up to you. I think Chain Lightning can be useful. I think the heal bubble is good. They both give you ult charge.
Yeah, I almost always do the heal bubble.
Yeah, I do so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I do too. I think it depends on the comp. If I'm playing like Hard Bastion or Roadhog or something that's blowing up my bubble, then I'm not going to have the heal for very long anyway. So, but I would say about 60-70% of the time I'm choosing the heal bubble.
Okay, that's good to think about because I don't think I've ever actually chosen Chain Lightning.
Yeah.
So it's good to know there's some value I can get out of it.
Yeah. Same thing with staging here, right? Why are you here? Right. We'll kind of be kind of like a broken record here, so we'll again. Yeah, I think that's this is risky, but look at the angle, right?
Yep. Yeah.
You even have a tiny bit of cover here, right? Like you can tuck in towards here, you can tuck in towards here. I have confidence that this should work. I don't know if you're going to win the fight here, but this should cause a huge issue. Go ahead. You were saying something
too, so I know like I can engage and be and not die too.
But the key thing is that you didn't just engage lazily. You had a good dive, good angle, and you're going to ultimate as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think now that you're kind of talking to me a little bit about thinking about angles in a little different way, I think I'm just like so used to holding the corner as Ryan that's just my default, and so I think I was just poking out from there.
If you catch yourself playing Diva like this versus Zarya, you're probably gonna have a hard time too.
Yeah, I probably do.
You know, even a little bit is going to feel bad. It doesn't mean necessarily flanking all the time. You do need to be playing. I mean, you could even play like a little angle here if your team is here. Or we talked about like a little angle here, but you do have to create something of a crossfire. So, yeah, this is really good. Yeah, this is how you use Primal, right? You set up a good engage on a good angle, and then you press Q once you get low.
Okay.
And then you keep going.
I might misunderstand the perk, but is that I get more value literally the higher I jump?
Yes and no. So that's generally
Okay.
discouraged with primal because there's like a long time for them to react and it's hard to land directly. But keep in mind with the perk, and we'll slow it down here. You don't partial credit counts. So watch. So you see the meter charging up right now? Bam.
Oh,
So even just 15, 20, 30 extra damage, it's good.
okay. So should
That's
I
good.
not be changing how I primal?
Probably not. No,
Necessarily?
probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. Maybe slightly in some circumstances, like you could maybe catch a widow off guard by popping it and just jumping up and then bam, bam, like one shotter almost. But it's not really enough. It's just more along the lines of that. It's like that bonus primal. Now the
'Cause,
one
yeah, I
thing
think
with go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think you'll see that like I do a couple jumps like
Yeah,
almost
it's
straight in the air, just to, like I think
It makes
I'm gonna
sense,
get more
right? It
damage.
makes sense, but yeah, it's not necessarily the best play. The only thing I'll say with primal here, just to kind of like give you a crash course on, it, is just you did exactly what I asked. You had a good engage, and then you got low, and then you got popped your second life. That's exactly how you use primal.
Okay.
The only thing I'd say once you actually have primal, the simplest way of thinking about it is just pick an immobile, lower HP target and kill them.
Okay.
So, for example, right now, I don't like going for the Juno because it's Juno. Bap probably would have been better.
Okay.
But beyond that, I mean, this is okay, right? You're still causing disruption, right? Like, this is still a big, giant mess. I think there's just a little bit too much general pressure. And obviously, we're going to ignore the fact that you're going up and down because you said that you were doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
But there was too much, I'm just going to kind of cause chaos. But the most chaos that you could provide is really threatening a kill on somebody, right? Force both bubbles, force all the cooldowns, and so on. But yeah, other than that, good old.
So I don't, unless they're in a corridor or something, like I just don't even know. Like, do I just jump on them and then just, left click them and punch them to death? Or do I try to jump on them like a couple times? Like, the concept of like the juggle, quote unquote, is something I don't understand.
So we're going to, again, focus on just the most important thing for you. The most important thing for you is to just, if you want to, hold left click and stay on one target. But at the same time, the most important thing to be able to stay on them, and what makes it Winston so hard, is the fact that you have 3 different jumps that you need to be aware of. This is also, the reason I'm highlighting this is because it's useful for your neutral game as well, even without ultimate, right? So look at the distance. If I go here, if I'm on 30 meters, I'm going to take my fingers off of the WASD and just press shift. Okay, so crosshair at head height. So 30 meters, just behind, and shift. Just before 10. Okay. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to hold S. So I'm going to go back in the jump. Ready? You see?
Yeah.
Then I'm going to hold W
those.
and do the same
For some
thing.
reason, the S one is very difficult for me to do.
Yeah, it is. Okay, but you notice with the W, that's an extra 3-4 meters at least. So this is where Primal comes into play, because staying on somebody is a combination of, hitting the combos, whatever. But more importantly, it's actually, staying on them. That's really all there is to it, right? It's like doing this. Do I short jump? Do I long jump? Do I standard jump? Sometimes I'll even because it's like, well, I want to get a short jump, but I need something that's 8 meters, not 10. So what I'll do is I'll back up to here and then there, right? There's my 8 meters, right? So a lot of primaling is, okay, over jumped, right? That's a beginner mistake. I hit, I under jumped there. So I needed to do that again. Nope, still under jump. So I'll just standard jump. Oh, that was perfect, right? And that's what primal is all about. It's like getting that distance, right? Because you knock them away from you. So is that a short jump? Probably, yeah. Yeah, there it is, right? You see it? So you have to eyeball it and then make it really clean. Now, what I would recommend while you're practicing this is how awkward and clunky my primals looked. That's how you need to practice. Is you actually don't mass jump off of a cooldown. So what I'll do is I'll go, here, ba-ba. That's a standard jump, right? Okay, that's another standard jump. Okay, that's a short jump.
Okay, this
You
is
got
super
me?
helpful. Yeah.
Right? That's kind of what you want to do. Now you're gonna get CC'd and blown up and smashed around. That's okay.
Well, even in
That's
the
all right.
practice range, like I didn't even know necessarily how to practice it. So
Yeah,
like
yeah, and
this
there's
is
even
helpful.
Google Primal Code as well. I
Okay.
know there's a workshop code out there. Now you could do that in Vaxta. Are you familiar with Vaxta?
Yeah.
You could do it in Vaxta too, but there might be a Primal specific code. But yeah, Vaxta, even just Vaxta would be good because you'll actually have like real hitboxes and people that are moving somewhat unpredictably. And yeah, there's no real architecture, but it still kind of judges things. But yeah, I mean that's the reason why this is so good is again because if I'm just doing a zap combo, do I need to short jump this, standard jump this, or long jump this? I think I need a long jump. And sure enough, there it is, right? Like if I maybe a little too far because I overshot it, then I had to 180, right? But that's like those little things. Whereas this needs to be a short jump, right? And so that's the mechanics of Winston, right? And that's why it's a lot harder than it looks. So it's a good skill to learn, being able to do that quickly and without thinking. And then ultimately, the way to get there is just by a lot of practice, kind of measuring it slowly.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, because I know that's a thing, but it's just it's a skill I don't have, and so I need to practice that.
Yeah, but if you get more comfortable with those mechanics and then apply it with the same level of preparation that you did with the primal just now, you'll do well because your setup for the primal is really good. Even this, right? Like I love this. This is so good. Look at the vision that you have. Right, and so then you decide: do I want to go in? Do I want to just deepen again? Like diving could be like a 3-step process, right? Like let's say this echo's not here. Well, look at where you are now, right? Now you can even get an even better drop, right? You don't even have to use jump at all, right? So that took you like a couple jumps to get there, right? So you're seeing the difficulty of mobility, and how it can be very freedom oriented, but also very, very punishing. I won't even ask you where you should be because you know.
Yeah.
Right? It's only because this isn't really an angle. If you were here, you could frontline trade with this Zarya all day long. Why?
Yeah. Because they have healing all behind them.
Sure. But how could you frontline trade with the Zarya here, but not frontline trade with the Zarya here? What's the difference for the Zarya?
Is it just that she doesn't really have somewhere she can cover, like she can cover behind
That's
the cart?
That's it. It's the value of the angle, right? If she wants to trade with you, she walks directly in front of your entire team in the open with her back turned to you.
Okay.
Right? You could honestly, I wouldn't frontline trade with the Roadhog here, but you could even frontline trade with the Rhine here. Like it's really bad to turn your back to threats, right? And so that's what makes Winston great. Is if you ever find, and this is why I don't like saying you have to always dive backline, even with Winston's, because if you are like, I don't like this, there's no cover, I'm going to die. Okay, fine, frontline trade, but do it from an angle, right? Do it from an angle. Use your mobility, right? Because if things go badly here, you just jump out, right? That's the way mobility is balanced in this game, is that characters with mobility are not very good at frontline trading. This is fine, but honestly, let them die. Or live or die. Like I would say instead, focus on this. Focus on this right here.
Yeah, I think I was trying to help them.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's not a terrible decision, especially with the healing bubble, I will say. Like that there's, maybe I'm the idiot here. I don't know.
No, that makes sense, though. I think I would have defaulted to doing that.
Yeah, this is
Even if
good.
I
This is
didn't have
good. Just
healing bubble or
this
anything.
guy here,
Yeah.
You're locking in a
saw
little
that
bit
she
too
was
much in
low,
Zarya.
so-
Yeah, but remember, low for her is not low for.
Yeah, I
Low is still
I just got
300 HP.
bloodthirsty.
Yeah. But I will say, like, your initial setups and angles, like, it's been a point of focus for us to improve on. But actually, in comparison to most gold 5 Winstons, right? It's actually pretty good.
Okay. Cool.
It's actually pretty good. Yeah, this is solid. Okay. Any questions so far?
No, I think that all makes sense.
All right, let's look at a handful more fights here. Same thing here. Think more about how can I live my engage, but also how can I get cover from my engage. So living is probably not going to be landing directly in the middle of them, as juicy as that would be. But if you were to get an angle, right? So where would you go? I think there's probably 2 approaches here. What do you think?
So I know one that I like is just walking forward and going kind of where the Junkrat is.
Yeah, so just you could even jump here, right? Jump, bubble, zap, they're all pulled this way. This allows cart to push for free. That's one, exactly. Give me the second one.
Is it the stairs on the left?
Kind of close, but not quite. Because the stairs are too far to do damage. You have to actually threaten damage, right? So it's an angle. It's got cover, but it's too far to do damage, right? It's why if you were to jump here, this ultimately wouldn't be a good end goal. It would just be a start. So you're close, really close though. Where could you do damage with a teeny bit of cover?
Behind like the Cassidy, maybe.
Yeah, like or even just I would just say just jump literally on the boxes here.
Okay.
Boxes, bubbles, zap, and then you just can drop if you need to. It's just like little things like that goes a long way. Okay. Little things like that goes a long way. The same way that when on third point you were jumping on that, you spotted the dumpster, right? Yep. Yep. Yeah, this is good. This is good. Like you messed it up, but this is the intention was exactly what we want here, and it's still an angle here. Like you look at where the attention is, right? This is good.
Yeah, I definitely missed that.
That's fine. It happens. And then you jump out. Yeah, you needed to jump out sooner, but it's still good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one. I mean, in terms of time, I know there's one part that I had a specific question about.
Yep.
If we could fast forward to second point.
Yep. That's it.
So I know that it's a little further.
Yep. Son.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to see this primal though. Hang on.
Yeah, I was actually pretty happy with this.
Good deep jump. Good bubble. Good angle. Look at where they're turned. Look at where you are. No bubble, but you keep going because you have primal. So zap, 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 zap. Yep. Bam. Lock him into a corner.
Yep.
Yeah, that was okay. Yeah, it's okay. You just need to play your life, right? Like when you get to around 300 HP versus something like this is good. But yeah, this is nice. This is nice.
Yeah. But she had to use grab on me, and then we capped because they all were focused on me. So I think that trade I was happy with.
Yep.
So I know I make a mistake here because they set up on top of the ship, and I make this jump. But
yeah. So okay. This is okay. So let's actually think about this. So is this an angle right now?
No.
Kind of, but not really, right? Because they're already looking in this direction. So this is a really good. So this is actually the funny thing. Okay, so this is a really good angle, but they're there, so it doesn't work anymore. So you're gonna have to leave. You're probably gonna have to pop bubble and leave.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is how Overwatch will start to work because this is really good from them. Most gold players won't do this, but sometimes they will. And so you got to be like, okay, I just can't die. I'm gonna reset and think about the problem again. So your problem is that you're going to die here. The problem is not that you went here. That's okay. It's like making a good move in chess and then they counter move you and then you commit to the plan like nothing has happened. Then your opponent's like, buddy, hello? Are you paying attention? Right? That's kind of like what happened here. You had the right idea. This is good because if they're not here, what can you do from here?
Yeah.
Where's your angle? What do you do?
I mean, I think I love being up here because it's like I have so many options. I can
exactly
behind, I can do a lot of things.
Exactly.
I think it's what I didn't consider is like where I was going to land gets them pretty much perfectly in their optimal distance to do damage, and I am not effective here.
Well, see, that's just it. You jumped up here with the intention of setting up, but then people were here and they were too far away. And you're like, oh, no. So then that's fine. Like, this happens to the highest level Winstons. You take an angle, you go, oh no, I need to get out. That's okay. Yeah. It's all right. That's why your character is here. So when you're here, the problem is that you just overstayed your welcome and then didn't fully jump out to cover, right? So if you go, like, let's say a better Winston player, bubbles earlier, zaps earlier, leaves earlier, jumps out to here and lives, and then you think about your situation. Now, you don't know where these guys are, but you would learn in about 3 seconds. So, okay, bam, I'm getting healing. And now I'm, where were you on cool? Okay, so you're 4 seconds on bubble, and let's say you're about almost full HP. From what you know right now, what do you think now?
I could get behind them.
How so?
On the ship, if I had my bubble.
Like you would do about 3 seconds, right?
Yeah, like assuming they were pushing forward, kind of like they were, I could engage them.
You could engage them again, right?
Angle. Yeah.
So no. What's the difference? Would that be more acceptable, and why did this not work? What was the difference?
Because one, I think I wouldn't be in my optimal range.
That's it. Stop right there.
Two, they would also have to kind of turn around a little bit.
Right. Exactly. But the first one's most important. Like you could actually threaten them, right? So what you do is you wouldn't necessarily kill them, but you would contest them while your team is taking the 4v3 here. Give me another engaged setup. Like let's say that they're not playing ball with you, right? What would you do? Where's another angle approach?
I could go up on the walkway, like where the doorway is.
Yeah,
like you're in there.
Get in here. and then drop on the tank, right? Or zap them from here, right? Or even flank from here if you want to. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're here, if you're here, approach from here. Yep, you got it. You got it.
Okay.
Yes, the mistake was not actually the setup. It was good. You just they did a good play against you. They did. It was a really good play from them. And you just, when you made it, when you're like, oh no, I'm going to die, just everything stops. Get up. Get it. Live. So that you could take a few seconds to think about, okay, how do I solve this? This is weird, right?
Okay. All right. That makes sense. And I embarrass me. I think I do it again. But
I mean, it's still the right place to be, right? So like, I think this is still fine. Yeah, this is still fine. Like, you could drop your bubble and zap this here. You miss a lot of your alt fires, but you don't die, right? It's fine. That's not embarrassing.
Okay. So, like, if I knew they were there and I didn't want to take that first initial engage, should I just go into the room with the ship? Like,
sure.
are there other... Okay.
Sure. Like, if you look at this here and you're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do anything versus this, then probably doing this is, again, just not going to work. So you solve the problem. How do I get an angle? How do I get close here? I mean, you have all the information you need in your screen right now.
Yeah. Okay.
You tell me.
From here, I could go behind the front line.
So you could just jump like here and bubble?
Yeah.
You could, but there's no cover. So I would say it's like a C tier engage. This is like a C tier engage because, again, too far. This is a C tier engage because no cover. Can you set up? Don't think immediate. Think delayed reinforcement. Right?
Yeah, I could get a little bit more, like, drop down and have an angle to go to the right, maybe?
Like where?
like kind of, I'd use the cover of the crates and jump, like, to the other yellow door to the right.
So you'd go, like, here?
Yeah, I could.
Here's something brilliant, right? Just walk.
Yep, that makes a lot more sense.
But the funny thing is you're 100% right. If you could get to here, this is 100% probably your best option with where things are right now. And then you could immediately contest these guys. You could drop on backline. You could flank around behind here and then drop. Yeah, exactly. So you look at the space. You're like, okay, this is the area that I can go for free because I have mobility. So let's see what I can do from here. The mistake was just how do I get there, right? But honestly, that's fine. I'm just glad to see that you have the right concept in brain, right? The other stuff will come with experience, right? Oh, I forgot I could do that, right? But you're thinking about things the right way. And like, for example, right now, the mistake is you just can't be here.
Kept doing the same thing.
You can't be here.
Didn't work. Okay.
I mean, you did jump out. You did. Just jumped out too slow. Okay, let's I'm gonna have you take some notes here.
Okay.
Even mentally or physically, and doesn't have to be in Discord channel, whatever works better for you. Okay, so Ryan was really simple.
Yeah, just
but
decision making.
Corner, right?
Corners, yeah.
Yeah, just in terms of where you're going, just being a little bit more decisive with that. Okay, what about... We talked about the versus Zarya. Let's focus on Winston.
So I think... jumping with more intention of cover.
Sure, jumping with more intention of cover. That's one. What else?
Finding the angles, even when I'm poking, and making them turn around.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not jumping into them.
Sure, even if you're not jumping backline, just turn to the side a little bit, right? Cover and angle. And the proximity, right? Like ultimately, like that's the difference. Like it always comes back to cover, angle, range, right? Like that's like the fundamental of hit scan. It's the fundamental of everything. So yeah, exactly. And then I guess some of the short jump, long jump stuff with primal. Just take a good engage, make it better. But yeah, I think that was mostly it. I think. Do you have any questions?
No. I think that all makes sense.
I guess I'll echo once more, just, your time of the game should be something fun. Don't feel like you have to be succeeding in something because Overwatch is, I'm sure you're already succeeding in a lot of other things that you're just not appreciative of right now,